All right, let's try this again. It does appear that I have sound now. I am seeing the sound showing up on my screen, so I think we're okay. Problem is, like, I can't test it until I actually get in here, and I was messing with it and trying to figure that out as I started a second stream, and then that kicked me off the second stream. So anyway, long journey to get here, but I think we are here. I think we are ready to talk some Big 12 football. I think we are ready to talk college football playoff tonight. Obviously, with TCU jumping in there as the 3 seed, despite losing to my Cats in Arlington on Saturday. And if I sound a little tired, a little beleaguered, it's because it's been a lot of driving coming back from Arlington today. And it was just an exhausting day yesterday. I didn't sleep a whole lot on Friday night. And then Saturday, early morning, checking out College Game Day in Arlington. Obviously, the game, which was just an emotional roller coaster, took a lot out of me. Ended very awesomely, but it was just a long, long day, followed by long car ride back. So I'm not 100% right now, but I'm here because we've got a lot to talk about, my friends. I promise you, I'm not going to hit you over the head the entire time with just K-State talk here. All right, I've done plenty of that on 3Ma already. If you guys listen to the 3Ma podcast, check it out. There's already an instant reaction pod up there. We're doing another one tomorrow too. So look, if you guys want to, you guys know, you donate, I'll talk about whatever it is you want to talk to. So K-State fans, if you want to really flood it, I will certainly talk some Cats. But we have a lot of other things to get to here on the show today, including the good old TCU Horned Frogs, which, I mean, in that game, to me, there was no doubt. I tweeted it going into overtime. I was like, I don't care what happens the rest of the way here. It is clear to me TCU is a playoff team. It is clear that Max Duggan is a Heisman contender. I mean, I think he deserves the Heisman, or at least is 1A, 1B with Caleb Williams. I guess if you really pin me down to it, I'd have a hard time deciding between those two. But man, he got his Heisman moment. He got his Heisman moment, no doubt, in that game, even in a loss, which I think is an extreme rarity that you find that, a guy with a Heisman moment, even in a loss. But I think that definitely did happen for Max Duggan in the game on Saturday. So I certainly hope he at least gets the invite to New York. I would expect that Caleb Williams is going to win that award. But the fact that TCU gets in, still preserving the 3 seed, is just a wonderful thing for the Big 12. They'll get to go play Michigan. They're not going to have to mess with Georgia right off the bat. It's a much more winnable game. It's a sign of respect, a little bit of a nod of respect to the Big 12 for TCU to get that. So I was thrilled with the fact that the Horned Frogs were still able to get in, and it wasn't K-State just derailing the conference and derailing a season for TCU as far as that goes. So we'll break that down and what it means for the Big 12 in terms of a postseason, because I think, to me, a lot of the significance of all this is that the Big 12 is just going to have a whale of a postseason in front of it in terms of importance. And really, it's 2 games. It's TCU in the playoff, trying to get a playoff win, and then it's K-State against Bama, which will be very interesting. That is in the Sugar Bowl. I mean, who knows who's actually going to play in that? K-State has a couple guys that I think we're going to wonder about whether or not they will play. Deuce Vaughn, I believe, on ESPN earlier today did say that he was going to play. Felix Anudike-Uzomah, the Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year. Remember that, Texas, in Austin? You guys got it? Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year, Felix Anudike-Uzomah? Yeah, we'll have to see if he's going to play or not, because he will definitely be a draft pick. And then Alabama's going to have a swath of guys that aren't playing. But if you go out and still lose, not going to be the greatest reflection here on the league. So I think K-State's going to need to go do that and get it done for the conference. But really, it's about TCU in the playoff. If they can win a playoff game and it's not Texas or Oklahoma, let's talk about stair-stepping the momentum that this league has already with Cincinnati last year, and now what you have this year with TCU. So a lot on the line. Horned Frogs need to regroup, and I think they will. I think they'll be just fine. We have all the other bowl matchups to go look at. I think, I know Tech fans are a little disappointed with the fact that they did not wind up in the Cheez-It Bowl or the Alamo Bowl. Texas winds up in the Alamo Bowl. Oklahoma winds up in the Cheez-It Bowl. I understand some frustration there from Texas Tech fans. Probably deserve better, but I do think the bowl matchup is fun, right? Tech and Ole Miss, Lane Kiffin, never dull, certainly. So I think that will be a pretty fun matchup. There's a little bit of an update on the Pac-12 TV deal, just from George Kliavkoff's press conference that preceded the Pac-12 championship on Friday. So we can get into that. We do still have some certified Big 12 haters out there. One of them coming from the conference, although his squad is leaving the conference. But we had a very prominent media member taking a stupid pot shot at the Big 12 earlier today. We can actually talk about that Big 12 championship game if anybody would like to. What a showcase for the league once again. to put on the best game of the day by far on Championship Saturday. And it came down to basically like 6 inches again, just like last year. I mean, very, very, very similar as far as that goes. Colorado hired Deion Sanders. Very interesting as far as college football goes. Not going to be at Cincinnati, which is a little bit disappointing. I would have loved for him to be at Cincinnati. And we have an innovative idea. I forgot about this. Innovative idea from Brett Yormark in the Big 12 coming up to talk about as well. So that's what I've got for you. That's kind of the outline for tonight. You guys know if you've been around here, it is your show in a lot of ways. You guys can dictate the content that's coming up here. I see some who have already donated, and I'm going to hop into those in just a second. But with over 100 people here in the chat already tonight, I can't keep up with everything that's going on there. So if you want to make your voice heard, if you want to be on the chat tonight, you can do so by clicking the $ below the chat box where it says say something. You donate, get your message in there, and it will pin it up at the top for me so it ensures that I talk about it and get to it here on the chat today. And it's supporting the work that I'm doing here on this channel. I could not do it without your guys' support, so I appreciate everybody who does help out as far as that goes. Truly means a lot to me as well that you guys show up here every Wednesday and Sunday and that you show up here and are generous as well as far as that goes. If you don't want to spend anything, all it takes is one click to help support the channel as well. You can just click the like button. Helps me with the YouTube algorithm. If you're watching after the fact, like the video. Make sure and leave me a comment too, whether or not it's you think I suck or you think I'm great. The comments also definitely help. And if you want to support, you're not catching it live on Venmo, you can find me at John-Kurtz-4. Papa's got some Big 12 championship tickets he's got to pay off. No, not really. Actually, if you guys want to know a funny story about this, I am not, like, I'm very interested in the Vegas lines on games, but I'm not a big gambler guy. Like 5 years ago, I tried on Bovada and just got my butt handed to me within like 5 weeks. And I was like, yeah, I think I'm just out on this. But the one thing I did do is in Kansas. So I was in the state of Kansas. And when everything fired up with FanDuel and all that coming into the state, like Kansas with the law allow that to happen, I took the sign-up bonus and I put it on over K-State 6.5 wins, which obviously hit. I told you guys that was pretty foolish. That was free money. Obviously hit. Then I took that. I took the winning from that and I invested it all on K-State money line on like Sunday. So I got way better odds on that than I would have waiting right before kickoff when K-State wound up being a favorite before the game. So I basically did pay for my ticket to the Big 12 championship game, courtesy of the free spend from it was FanDuel. It was FanDuel. So not a sponsor, could be. Not a sponsor here on the YouTube channel, could be if they'd like to be. But yeah, they helped me out there. So look, it was a great day. It was a great day. Boom to the Sooner. Boom to the Sooner. First up here says, congrats, Kurtz, on the Big 12 title. You got your wish. Why not have K-State win the conference and TCU in the playoff too? You are correct, Boom to the Sooner. I told you guys all week last week, look, there's a scenario here where I know everybody's like, I'm rooting for TCU because I need the Big 12 in the playoff. I was like, hey, there's a scenario here where everything works out just grand for all parties involved. K-State gets the Big 12 championship. TCU gets the playoff. Now, I know Max Duggan was pretty crushed after the game. And I legitimately feel for him. I'm usually a guy with a lot of snark, very sarcastic. I don't have any of that for Max Duggan. The guy played his absolute butt off and is a warrior, and I love his story. I have nothing but glowing things to say about Max Duggan, and certainly played well enough to win in that game. So you're not going to hear any Max Duggan slander from me at all here. Like I said, I would be pretty hard pressed to not vote for him to win the Heisman Trophy. It would obviously be between him and Caleb Williams to me, but I hope he gets plenty of love as far as that goes. But TCU still does get to go play in the college football playoff. And not only that, Boom to the Sooner, they're still the 3 seed. It wasn't just that they made it in. This was not like we're going to sneak you in at 4 and you're going to go get the doors blown off by Georgia. This was, no, you get to go play Michigan, which is worlds different. I think even just from a mentality standpoint, just the mental aspect of who you're playing here. And look, just watching the teams, I think it's quite obvious. You got a better shot at beating Michigan than you do going and beating Georgia in the first round of the playoff. So that was huge. And this is what, like, I would make the case to you that just pretty much everything played out perfectly. You get the best case scenario that I pitched there, where K-State gets a conference championship, and you have this insane game, like just a crazy game. That was, I mean, being there was such a cool experience on a number of different levels, but one of the best atmospheres I've been in, because there were almost 70,000 people there. It was the highest attended game since 2018, 69,000 plus. Great job by both sides of filling it virtually all the way to the top. It felt like it was like 75%, 80% full in there, and it was very loud. And just the drama, the emotional swings on both sides, like there was so much happening and going on that it just made for an incredible atmosphere, an incredible environment, and a game that people were going to watch because on a day filled with not much else in terms of competitive games on Championship Saturday, you got a hell of a game here with stakes that people realize with TCU in the playoff at the time, not wanting to leave that in the selection committee's hands in essence and preserving it and wrapping it up. But also, you had Bama fans watching, maybe some Ohio State fans watching, although with USC's loss, they probably felt pretty good about being in there already. But it just turned everything into a spotlight on this game. You had College Game Day there. You had the Fowler, Herb Street, Holly Rowe team, and you got as good a game as you could ever possibly imagine between two teams that it did not feel like these teams were playing bad football, right? Like that just felt like an incredible game with two very good teams kind of trading haymakers and throwing blows back and forth that goes into overtime and you get a dramatic goal line stop after a dramatic comeback and 2-point conversion at the end of regulation. You get a dramatic stop at the end of the game on the goal line and a game-winning field goal. I mean, it was perfect. And then TCU stays in. They get the 3 seed, establishing a lot of respect, honestly, for the Big 12. A lot of respect, I think, in evolution in how the committee has operated here, because in years past, I know they don't love the 2 losses thing, but man, with Bama being the team that was lurking there and a Big 12 team of the loss, especially a loss that had just happened. I mean, I think most people would have told you before the season that is not going to be a winning scenario for the Big 12, but it was. And not only that, but they stayed in front of Ohio State too, which is also just really, really nice to see. And the committee, Boo Corrigan, I know, did say that K-State being the respect that they had for K-State really helped carry some of the day there too. So look, am I naive to the fact that an Ohio State-Michigan rematch may have been a piece of the motivation there to do that and keep away from it in the first round? Yeah, I mean, I don't care what they say. I would imagine that at least had to be somewhat on the minds there. But at the same time, if you're the playoff, I mean, ratings are already going to be crazy. If you just made it an Ohio State-Michigan rematch, I mean, that's still going to be a really, really highly watched college football game with a ton of interest and intrigue. So I guess on one hand, I can kind of, I would not get too wrapped up in like, oh, they were totally trying to avoid that. Either way, TCU's in as the 3. K-State still won. You had an incredible game. The TV number I haven't seen yet, but that's, I think, going to be a massive number. To me, there's no doubt that that's going to outdraw the 4.83 million that watched last year's Big 12 championship game that went right down to the wire with Oklahoma State and Baylor. So it just could not have been a better day for the conference. I thought a lot of the stuff they did in game with the in-game host, who has done work with like the 2K franchise, with Ashanti singing the national anthem, having it at Jerry World, it just had this big time feel to it. And the Big 12 definitely stole the spotlight for much of the day on Saturday. So I think just great stuff all the way around for the league, everybody involved. I don't know that it could have really unfolded much better. Yeah, I guess I'm saying that from the perspective of somebody who wanted to see my team win a championship. So maybe for someone that says, well, it would have been better if TCU just steamrolled their opponent and rolled in. I mean, okay, maybe. But if we're talking about utilitarianism here for everybody, right? Earning some respect for the Cats at the same time, that worked out about as well as possible. So anyway, appreciate it. Boom to the Sooner. It was a blast. It was a blast being there for that on Saturday. One of the, I've seen K-State win a conference championship 3 times in my lifetime. It's happened basically once a decade now, 2003, 2012, 2022. So I don't get to experience that very often. And it was insane. It was awesome. It was great. Daniel, what's up, Daniel? Thank you for being here. Thank you for the support, my friend. Daniel says, awesome weekend for K-State athletes. Happy about the title. Go Cats, beat Bama. Go Frogs, win the national title. Yes, I would like to offer my full-fledged support behind TCU, Max Duggan, Sonny Dykes, Quentin Johnston, even the guy that threw a punch on Ben Sinnott in the end zone and was ready to square up as he ignored him and walked past him to celebrate a touchdown. Even that guy, I'm here to support you in your quest for a national championship. All right, just go get the natty. Go get the natty. And really, if it could just be just one win, if it's beating Michigan and getting to the championship game, it would do worlds for the Big 12's respect level, I think, nationally. So I will be very, very intent on watching that on the 31st and hoping and praying that the Big 12 gets that done. But yes, it was a great weekend, Daniel. Not only that, hey, K-State Hoops beat Wichita State. K-State women, I believe, also won. So pretty great all the way around. And I think everybody who's in this chat, everybody on this channel, watching this, Big 12 fans, you should all be very vehemently pulling for TCU. I know some may not like them all that much. Tech, Baylor, I get it. For the sake of the league, though, it would be a very good thing. I'm not going to begrudge you if you look. It would be hard for me to root for Kansas, really, in a situation like that. So I understand, but I think most of us need to understand the good it can do to conference if TCU goes out there and wins. Because man, I mean, it is funny. It is funny the media landscape right now. Paul Feinbaum was out there. I saw somebody tweeted that he had a quote. I was only able to catch a little bit of the show that was on this afternoon as we were driving. But I saw that there was a quote from Feinbaum where he has just completely changed his tune. He said TCU finished the season strong and felt like they deserved their spot because of it, which Feinbaum made the comment right before the last couple of weeks. It was coming off of the Baylor game, I believe, when he made the comment that nobody was going to watch the Big 12 championship game. All they did, they went and beat Iowa State. They beat a 4-8 team, and then they lost in overtime in the conference championship game post that. So all their heavy lifting had been done. All the actual work had been done, which this takes us right down the road and lends credence to the theory that it was just the ESPN higher-ups, the bosses, that said, yo, Feinbaum, you got to change your tune, homie. And it seems like that's what's happened. So, I mean, I guess a good thing that that's the way it continues to go, but also just a little hollow. I mean, you can see through it. You can definitely see through all that from Feinbaum right now. So, I mean, hey, whatever works, whatever floats your boat. But for the Feinbaums of the world, if you want to shut them up, you need to go win a game in the playoff, because that is something this league still has not done. And we're talking to you, Oklahoma. All right, this is not an Oklahoma gets to abstain itself from the conversation by covering its ears over in the corner of the room anymore. You got to come back with everybody else. Not winning a playoff game has been a problem here. And if TCU can jump up and be the first to actually do it, be huge. And again, the fact that they're in the 2-3 game, I think makes a big difference there, because Oklahoma, even all the times that they were in the playoff, only once were they not the 4. So this is an opportunity for the league to get off of that 1-4 line, not have to play the SEC behemoth that's there up at the top. Sorry about that. This has been just a great night for the live show, huh? Just a great night for the live show. Audio problems and now my phone going off. But Daniel, I appreciate it. Thank you for being here. Everybody pulling for the Frogs would be huge for future Big 12 teams that win the Big 12, that go on to the playoff in this new 12-team playoff era. I mean, the dynamics on everything are shifting very fast as we're about to head into a 12-team playoff coming up in 2024. So some things are going to be changing very quickly here. And, I think it actually adds a lot of value to the people that are discussing what a 12-team playoff would look like this year. I mean, in years past, it's felt a little more like, okay, that's fun, that's cute, maybe we will get there someday, but we're not realistically very close to that. Now we actually are, so it's really intriguing to go look at those. By the way, committee having Utah slide in ahead of K-State really would have screwed K-State in the 12-team playoff, from having a bye to playing in an 8-9 game on the road at Tennessee all of a sudden. Those are the types of things to keep in mind, like how crazy that will be moving forward. But again, that's about respect. It's about respect. Can you get the respect from the committee? And if the Big 12 wins a playoff game here with TCU further down the line, you're going to have more opportunities for respect. And a team in K-State's position hopefully wouldn't get that sort of a treatment. And the difference there is USC became the 4th highest rated conference champion. So in doing so, by jumping K-State by just one spot in the college football playoff rankings, but that one spot makes the difference in the way the 12-team playoff would be structured between K-State having a bye and then hosting a game in the playoff versus not having a bye and going on the road to Tennessee in the first round. And then if you win that, being in the bracket with Georgia, the 1 seed. So just a wild swing there in terms of how far you can advance in this thing based on the one spot in the rankings. So that's going to be the really interesting. Those dynamics will be very interesting to monitor moving forward, and why I would make the case that this expanded playoff is not going to kill regular season, like the meaningfulness. If that's a word. How meaningful regular season games are, which is a concern that a lot of people have, right? I don't think it will be that bad, and that is one example of it. Calico Willie, what's up, Calico Willie? My man, thank you for being here. Thank you for the support. Calico Willie says, looked like Cat fans traveled well. Any idea on how many fans we had? EMA, Big 12 champs, and Duggan laid it all out there. He better be on Raise It. Okay. As far as the fans go, there has been some dispute about this between myself and at least one TCU fan in my mentions. I would have said, now I will totally admit, I'm not above admitting when I'm wrong. Like 10 minutes before kickoff, I was looking at the crowd and I was like, man, it seems like K-State has substantially outdrawn TCU here. As it once it really got filled in, not a ton of difference. And so, one of those tweets that I fired off at the beginning of the game was definitely stupid. I'm feeling the energy and the adrenaline, the juices going, and just fired up. And not a fair tweet to throw out there about TCU. I still would have said though that K-State's side seems slightly more full. So I was thinking 60-40, 55-45, really maybe more like 55-45 K-State. But what it tells you is it was very, very close. And with an attendance of 69,000, we're looking at probably 30,000 plus Calico Willie. I would say 30,000 plus K-State fans that made the trip. I mean, it's 7 hours from Manhattan. It was 8 hours for me from Kansas City. And you had 30,000 plus there. There were a lot of K-State fans. And if you are curious, I've heard very good things about the pre-sale numbers so far for the Sugar Bowl tickets down in New Orleans through the athletic department. So I think K-State's going to bring a massive crowd to that game as they match up with Bama in the Sugar Bowl. So yeah, it was great, Calico Willie. Great environment. Both sides did awesome. I mean, it was terrific. I probably saw 7,000 Hypnotoad signs. So TCU fans definitely had those bases covered. The only thing, like in-game wise, that was annoying as TCU was making its comeback late in the game in the fourth quarter, when I'm just a mess in a glass case of emotion, as Will Ferrell would say, or Ron Burgundy rather would say. And they kept going to, in the timeouts, all they were doing instead of flipping back between K-State and TCU fans, they were just finding more Hypnotoad signs to throw up there, which gets the TCU fans jacked, man. Nothing was getting them more fired up than seeing Hypnotoad signs. And I was like, all right, Brett, can we chill, my man, on the Hypnotoad just over and over again with like 17 of these during every timeout, just getting their side of the crowd more and more amps? Can we just chill on that? But hey, it worked out. K-State won the game. TCU, again, in the college football playoff. So we're all good. We're all good. Matthew, what's up, Matthew? Matthew said the Feinbaum sign made the Big 12 championship vid. Oh, did it? Okay. I don't know that I've watched the. Are you talking about, Matthew? I'd be curious if you're talking about the Big 12 put out like an official vid, and then I saw K-State, the one that they dropped, which was absolute fire, just a second ago before I actually hopped on here. But I saw the sign. I saw the Feinbaum sign that said, like, are you watching now, Feinbaum? Is that the one that we're talking about that made it on there? I thought that one was pretty good and definitely did see it on game day. It was tough. By the time I got over to game day, I didn't sleep well on Friday, as I said, so I didn't make it over nearly as early as I wanted to. I was at AT&T Stadium. So by the time I got over to game day, like, it was so packed that you couldn't really do a whole lot. Calico Willie says Duggan better raise the Heisman. Okay, raise the Heisman. I got you. Raise the Heisman. Well, I think he's got a better chance after what happened Saturday. And going into it, would anybody have said like Duggan losing the game to K-State is going to improve his Heisman chances? But the way it played out, I think we all understand why, man. I mean, just a Herculean effort from that guy. Rush for, was it like 85 yards on that last scoring drive that they had? He rushed for like 85 yards on the drive. It was ridiculous, man. Just an insane effort by Duggan. And he's literally bloody and exhausted by the time he's in the end zone, to the point where like he can't, his teammates can't even like pick him up or touch him at all. He's like waving them off because he's just that exhausted. The guy's just ready to drop. And that was after leading that entire drive and then hitting the 2-point play. I mean, it was insane. Just a crazy effort by Duggan. And yeah, he got away on the huge scramble down the sideline. He got away from K-State's preseason first team All Big 12 middle linebacker Daniel Green, who is a phenomenal player. I mean, it's not like he was beating Joe Schmo out there. Like, he was beating dudes to go make those plays. So all the respect in the world for him on that point. That last drive, they had like 2nd and 20 because of the offense, the OPI that happened there, and just wiped it out. Didn't matter. So it's that. It's not only like the effort and what happened during the game, but just the optics of it, how it looked. When you got a guy that's like battered, bruised, bloody, and still making those plays, just literally carrying his team almost across the finish line, got very, very close, perhaps, about 6 inches away from the finish line there, but not quite. Um, and it felt like TCU kind of took it out of his hands a little bit at overtime there. I don't know if they would have run a QB sneak twice. I definitely have my doubts that K-State gets the stop there, but that may be where you could come back and say, well, he was so exhausted, they probably didn't want to do that to him and to his body. And K-State played a huge role in that by hitting him throughout the game. I would listen to that certainly also. But either way, Duggan does deserve to be in New York at a minimum, and I think should probably get the trophy. And I definitely saw enough on Saturday against what is, I'm here to tell you, a very good K-State team. Boom to the Sooner. Boom to the Sooner says, how did the Sooners draw a 9-3 team in a bowl, and can they actually beat Florida State? Well, I'll answer the second part first. Yes, I think they can beat Florida State for sure. Florida State definitely much improved this year. Mike Norvell appears to have things headed in the right direction, but I don't know if you've watched much ACC football this year. Rather unimpressive to me. Didn't wind up with anybody in the playoff. Clemson blows out their opponent in the ACC championship game, but just did not look great throughout the year. Certainly a step or two below where they've been when they've been at the elite level. So I'm not overly impressed by the depth to go along with whatever's at the top of the ACC too. And so 9-3 doesn't do a ton for me in that league as far as, I mean, a really nice season for Florida State. But in terms of saying like, oh, they're not going to be able to Oklahoma beat Florida State, no, I would never say that. I think it's very much possible the Sooners win the game. How did they get there? They got there because of the way that this whole bowl selection process works, right? It's not just a straight up meritocracy all the time. I saw Brett McMurphy tweet something out that there was a late shuffling with the Big 12 bowl lineup. So, maybe some of this happened at the final hour. Texas Tech certainly should have been higher up on the pecking order, like on the list than Oklahoma, but Oklahoma's got a brand. And the way this goes down typically is some of these bowls that don't get in Oklahoma all that often, they're going to jockey really hard to try and get the Sooners because they don't get this opportunity ever. And so they want to go take that team and take that brand and put them there in that game. So if you are curious, I can read you all the Big 12 bowl matchups here if you haven't seen them yet. We're talking about Oklahoma and Florida State in the Cheez-It Bowl, which is going to be played out in Orlando. Oklahoma State and Wisconsin in the Guaranteed Rate Bowl. Kansas against Arkansas in the Liberty Bowl. Baylor Air Force in the Armed Forces Bowl. Tech and Ole Miss in the Texas Bowl. Washington v. Texas in the Alamo Bowl. And then K-State Bama in the Sugar Bowl. Of course, TCU and Michigan in the college football playoff. So that's what we got for the league. So yes, move to the Sooner they can. Side of the helmet certainly helps out a lot in terms of the positioning that Oklahoma got there. Cheez-It Bowl, the game that's been played in Orlando, because I can't remember if it was the Cheez-It Bowl when this, but they had Clemson and Iowa State. It was last year, right? Clemson and Iowa State. So they got a chance to take a brand like Clemson and throw them in that game, which doesn't happen often. They've actually been doing a pretty good job as far as getting matchups that they want lately because of that. So anyway, that I think is the best reasoning I could really give you there. Snappy, what's up, Snappy? Snappy AJ, thank you for the donation. Far too kind. Far too kind. I genuinely appreciate your support. Thank you for being here, and thank you for supporting this channel and the Big 12, man. Snappy AJ says, my OSU TCU house has now seen 2 Big 12 titles lost by inches. Oh boy, yeah, that is pretty brutal. He says, congrats, and I'm secretly glad the classiest fans of the Big 12 gave some humility to what's becoming the most obnoxious. Although you both rushed the field on OSU, so did KU. Wow. So I assume that's a little shot at TCU becoming too obnoxious. I mean, well, you don't have to tell my guy Cole, who I was at the game with twice, because he went down to Fort Worth and experienced some of the beer slinging from TCU students. I couldn't find myself getting real worked up about that. Like, oh, this like vengeful, K-State's getting revenge and this fan base that's too uppity. I didn't have a whole lot of that. A little annoyed during the game right behind me, but like these probably like 8-year-old kids that were just like, pretty rudely screaming and yelling and talking stuff. But, like whatever, it's a game, you're sitting there and they're 8-year-old kids. I had to keep telling myself in my head, like when stuff was going wrong, like, just chill, man. They're like 8-year-old kids. So, but no, outside of that, like I didn't have any bad experiences with TCU fans at all. So just both sides did a really good job filling the place up and making the atmosphere absolutely awesome. So I appreciate that, and I appreciate the moniker of being the classiest fans in the Big 12. We can we like to have some fun on Twitter sometimes, but hey, I think K-State Twitter is pretty elite. I think the entire fan base is pretty elite, as evidenced by 30,000 plus in Arlington on Saturday. So appreciate the kind words there, Snappy AJ. And I am sorry that 2 years in a row it's been that close in your household to a Big 12 championship. That is absolutely brutal. Absolutely brutal. As far as rushing the field against Oklahoma State, yeah, I mean, at the time, I will just say in K-State's defense, well, in Kansas's defense, I mean, that was the game that got them bowl eligible for the first time since the Obama administration. So I can understand why they did. For K-State, top 10 win. Oklahoma State was in the top 10 still at that time. A lot of apprehension about where they were coming off of a loss to TCU and a ton of injuries and all that. So I get it. It wasn't like and even then it was kind of like a slow, delayed rush the field because of the outcome of the game. You just knew it for so long. It wasn't like a moment, like a last second field goal kind of moment like we just had on Saturday in Arlington. But yeah, I mean, I'm not going to go bragging about the fact that you rushed the field in that game. But hey, I mean, Oklahoma State's also been the most consistent program here in the Big 12, and K-State has not beaten the Cowboys very often here as of late. So just some respect, just the tip of the cap and some respect. But hey, appreciate it. Thank you for being here. And I sorry for the loss on Saturday, but I think TCU is going to be just fine now with the playoff to focus on. So happy for you guys. Very, very happy for you guys. Upstate Bernie. What's up, Upstate Bernie? Upstate Bernie says, congrats on your team winning the Big 12, getting respect with TCU in the semifinal. Thank you, Upstate Bernie. Appreciate the donation. Thank you for being here. You are correct. That is the way that it worked out. My squad gets the win. Big 12 gets some respect. That is an interesting part here. I mean, we see these rankings from the committee throughout the week or the weeks leading up to the playoff. And I know that there's definitely some brand bias. I get frustrated with it every year. But it does seem like, I mean, this year of all years, the Big 12 got a pretty healthy amount of respect. K-State was, up until this last poll, the highest ranked 3-loss team in the country. Utah finally passed them because they beat USC in emphatic fashion on Friday. Up until that, K-State had more respect than any 3-loss team in the country. And TCU, just 8 years? 8 years after beating somebody by 50 as the number 3 team and then falling out and dropping back out of the playoff. Just 8 years later, they are the 3 seed. They lose a game in overtime in the conference championship game, and they remain the 3 seed. So something has changed here. I don't know if you can attribute it all just to the external circumstances here. That is certainly some of it, that there weren't great contenders just ready and waiting there. That is absolutely a part of it. But I'd like to think that maybe a little bit of it too is earning some more respect for the Big 12 and learning through the last 2 years that even if Oklahoma and Texas are not dominant, it doesn't mean that this is not a good league. And I think it's been a really positive step in the right direction for the conference as far as that goes. Garrett, what's up, Garrett? Garrett says, non-con next year, FCS playoff team at Mizzou, 10-2 Troy. Yeah, in reference to K-State's non-con. Look, I wasn't even going to bring that up, but someone did tell me that this weekend. They were like, K-State has Troy on the schedule next year. Well, Troy won their league. It was at the Sun Belt, and they're 11-2. I was like, okay, well, I don't love that, having that in the non-con a year after losing to Tulane, who, by the way, is 11-2, won the AAC. Congrats to Tulane. Sorry, UCF fans. But won the AAC and now is into the Cotton Bowl to play USC. So, yeah, I'm a little leery about that. At Mizzou, Tigers, Eli Drinkwitz, come on. It'll be okay. But more worried about Troy. State of Missouri football. More worried about the Troy game than I am at Mizzou. All right, lots of people already donating here. I've got a ton to catch up on, so I'm going to continue to work my way through that. But you can contribute as well. If you got something you want me to address and get to here on the show, you can click the $sign below the chat box where it says say something. That is how you donate. That is how you get in here. It will tack the conversation up at the top for me, so it guarantees that I see it, guarantees that I read it, and supports the work that I'm doing, bringing you Big 12 content on a week-in, week-out basis here on the channel. Robert says, go Purple Baylor, win the Natty for the Big 12. There you go, Robert, from the Cactus Mafia himself. Robert saying, go Purple Baylor, win the Natty for the Big 12. Put in some support behind TCU. Love it, Robert. That's the kind of spirit and attitude that we need around here. So thank you for that. We all stand the Frogs right now, okay? We all stand the Frogs. You're welcome to stand the Cats, too, which I would imagine most of the league will be rooting for K-State against Alabama. I don't think I'm going to have a hard time getting you guys on board for that one. Neil, what's up, Neil? Neil says, great to see your pre- and post-game shows down in Arlington. Always enjoy your work, buddy, Neilio. Hey, thank you, Neilio. I appreciate you, man. We had a great time. Forgetting the name of the place that we were at. Must have been great, right? Boomer Jacks is where we were at before the game in Arlington. They were really cool, great hosts. Really enjoyed getting a chance to meet people that came by and watched the pod, and we had a really good time as always. And then post game, we just tried to gut something out in a hotel ballroom on hotel Wi-Fi, but we got it out there. So if you want it, it is on 3Mall. But hope you had a hell of a day on Saturday watching the game, taking everything in, Neilio, because that was a big day for the Cats, and everybody who loves the Cats. So thank you, Neilio, for being here as always, my friend. Cynthia just wants to chime in with a donation. Says, great show as always. Appreciate that, Cynthia. Thank you very much. Thank you for your support and your donation being here. You guys are being awesome as always. So I appreciate that. But for real, thank you, Cynthia. If you have something else that you want to get on, just let me know. I'll try and check the chat there for that too. I apparently got to the Hypnotoad part of the chat. As I catch up, I'm behind trying to get through all the donations here. I'm seeing Hypnotoad like 17 times in a row. No more Hypnotoad, Jeremy. Look, I'm behind TCU, but the Hypnotoad and then that damn TCU fans, the train, tractor, whatever the hell the thing is, that is the blaring horn. I can't deal with that, okay? I hope it plays a bunch of times against Michigan, I suppose. But I'm done with that thing, and it's not just because of the game on Saturdays, because back when I was working my job at the radio station, which this will sound a little counterintuitive, but I used to shoot video highlights on the sideline. And so, there were 3 or 4 times I was in Fort Worth shooting video highlights on the sideline, and it'll lull you to sleep. Like, you'll just be doing your job. You forget that the horn exists. And then all of a sudden, TCU scores a touchdown and you'll be right in front of it. And this thing will just blast your eardrum off. And there were multiple times where it scared the living you-know-what out of me. And was very loud, very annoying. Ruined the vibe. So combine that with on Saturday, you're like frustrated, and then you got to hear that thing go off. Not a big fan of that. Not a big fan of that. So for right now, I need some space. I'll come back around by the 31st. I'll be like wearing a Hypnotoad shirt. Give me some Hypnotoad glasses. Like I'll be on board. But for right now, I need a little toad break. What's up, Matthew? All right, Matthew. Matthew has more on the Feinbaum situation. Thank you for following up on this, Matthew. Matthew says, yeah, quote, hey, Feinbaum, made you look. Okay, that was the sign. The sign said, hey, Feinbaum, made you look. That's good. That's good. I like that almost even better than the initial idea of like, hey, who's watching now, or are you watching now, Feinbaum? Made you look. Shout out to the lady who recognized us, the sign from our talk on Kurtz's show. Oh, hey, okay. Love that. Can we talk? Hey, Matthew Inzit, can we talk about the stupid TCU horn? Well, I just did talk about the TCU horn. And it's funny. I tweeted something about that, and I got a TCU fan responding back to me that said, well, I feel the same about you, because I said there's a special place in hell for the TCU horn. That guy said, like, well, I feel the same about your, what did he call us? Wheat Aggie, I think, Wheat Aggie chants, which, yeah, I could totally see how it would get annoying, the KSU chant that goes on every time K-State scores. This, in all seriousness, is what made the environment great, what made the atmosphere great, and what makes college football great, is the fact that you have these competing, dueling traditions going on there. And that's what, like, it was just such a great showcase for the Big 12 on Saturday, man. You had fan bases that support the hell out of their teams, even if they may be looked upon in a negative way in the national college football landscape. Like, it showed the passion that Big 12 fans have on both sides there. So, see, I've turned it all back around. But I do mean that. As much as I hate the siren and all that stuff, it is just cool to have both traditions on both sides going back and forth with 2 great fan bases and 2 great teams. So I enjoyed it, man. Enjoyed it a lot. And I also love Matthew telling me that, like, basically our community spreading out there into the world at the Big 12 championship game, people recognizing the sign, recognizing the conversation coming up first here, and that it the genesis of it was this YouTube channel. So that's a very personally rewarding and cool story. So thank you for that, Matthew. Thank you very much. Ema Tom. Ema Tom, thank you for the donation. Thank you for chipping in, my friend. Ema Tom says, Duggan deserves the Heisman. TCU deserves the 3 seed, but the Cats are Big 12 champs. Great to see you, John, and feed me Bama. Yeah, that's right. That's right. I did meet Ema Tom. I remember that now. Okay, so feed me Bama. Yeah, people were telling me all weekend that I've gotta stop being so scared of Bama. So I don't know. Maybe you guys in the chat can help me out with that. Like, do I need to stop being scared of Bama? Stop cowering in fear at Bama? Because I know, like on the channel here, I'll preach all day. Bama did not deserve to get into the playoff. I mean, TCU, whether or not Nick Saban, and that's another thing we could go on and on about, Nick Saban's personal media tour that he went on Saturday and that Fox and ESPN just allowed him to have. What a freaking joke. Well, his argument was basically like, we're Bama. We've got 5-star players. Let us in. That was pretty much the argument. And he was using, hey, if you took us and whoever, TCU, these other teams competing, and put them on a neutral field, would we be the Vegas favorite? And if we are, then we're the better team. Okay, the only problem with that is, like, at some point we do have to, this has to be somewhat merit-based at a certain level. All right, we can't just be handing it over to teams because we can't just do this in February, right? If we did that, really, I guess I should say December these days with the early signing period, but you get the point. If we did it in the winter, Texas A&M would have been a playoff team. Instead, they're only a playoff team to Desmond Howard. But Texas A&M obviously was terrible. They didn't even make a bowl game. But if we were doing it based on how you recruit, Texas A&M would have been in there right away. So you can't. That's a slippery slope. We can't be doing that. And I'm glad the committee did not decide to go that route. It would have been a horrendously controversial decision. So anyway, having said that, I'm still a little bit worried about Bama. Okay, so I can say all that. I can believe all that. I don't think they deserve to be in. TCU still does. Now, look, would I take Bama on a neutral field over TCU? If my life depended on it, I probably would, but it would be close. I'd have to think about it. And if I'm going to do that, I should probably not be super scared of it as a K-State fan, at least not cowering in fear, because K-State just beat TCU. They've gone toe-to-toe with the Horned Frogs twice. But it is Bama, and it's just they have enough residual respect that you worry and you wonder about it, even if there's no Bryce Young or Will Anderson, whatever. But that's why I think it's just going to be such an important postseason for the league. And I've already touched on this with the TCU element of it. The Big 12 has not won a playoff game. Oklahoma could never win a playoff game, even the one time they were a 2 seed and had a great chance to do it in that classic Rose Bowl that they played with Georgia. Didn't get it done. This league has not been able to get it done. And we have fought this battle all year, right? Screaming from the mountaintops, whether it was Feinbaum, whether it was just SEC people in your mentions, whoever. We've been fighting this battle all season. Give us respect. All the computers love us. The committee even started to come around on the Big 12, but you can't get national respect in a lot of places because people still have this idea that the Big 12 it can't possibly be good. And Texas and Oklahoma are not at the top of the league this year. It cannot possibly be good. Doesn't matter what numbers you give them. I mean, the Big 12 finished with the highest average conference rating from K Ford, which is very popular. I see on Twitter quite a bit, 79.5 above the SEC's 77.19. So their metric, their strength, their power ranking had the Big 12 as the best conference, even over the SEC. You can throw out strength of record, which TCU was number one. I believe going into last week, TCU was still number one at strength of record across the country. Very healthy strength of schedule for TCU as well. Now, Bama will argue that theirs is higher. It is technically higher there, but look, they've lost games. I mean, they lost a four-loss LSU, and they lost another game to a team with a couple of losses. So, that being Tennessee, obviously. So I'm trying to talk myself into this with the Bama thing, but at the same time, also trying to recognize, like, the Big 12 has a lot of metrics, a lot of numbers you could throw out there during the year that would indicate that it is, if not the best conference, certainly top 2, or at worst, top 3 best conferences out there this year, but people just don't respect it. They're never going to respect TCU because of that. What happens if you win a playoff game? If you go beat Michigan, who just smacked Ohio State, you go do that, all of a sudden you're going to garner a lot of respect. And that will go a long way for this new league. You know, it's much different than would it have helped if Oklahoma had won a game or two along the way in the playoff? Would it have helped if they didn't choke away that Rose Bowl in 2018? Certainly, yes, it would have helped a little bit for the league respect wise. But now we're in a new era. We're in a new day and age. Texas and Oklahoma are not going to be here. And you do need to go fight and earn some of that respect on your own. Already got off to a great start with that last year. You had Cincinnati, one of the incoming schools, one of the schools that you staked your reputation on to go bring into this league. They made the playoff last year. This year, you've got another one of the 8 left behind teams. It's TCU. You got, I should say, another one of the teams from your new look league going to the playoff. But this can't just be go there. And since he didn't get blasted, but go there and lose a game in which nobody ever feels like you're seriously threatening to win. Because I feel like since he fought their butts off and they stayed relatively competitive, but it never felt like the outcome was like seriously in question there. That can't be the case here for TCU, especially when you get the benefit of the doubt and being the 3 instead of the 4. This needs to be a capitalize on this momentum. And obviously winning the game would be ideal, but even if it's just a very competitive game, that would help a lot. But really it's go get the win. And I think there's a good chance of it. Michigan's not going to have Blake Corum out for the rest of the year. I know they've been playing. I mean, look, I don't really know what to take or make from the Purdue game because the Big Ten West, like whatever. But the Ohio State game was unbelievably impressive, undeniably impressive for Michigan. It definitely proved me wrong about them. I thought they were kind of just a total fraud before that. They are certainly not a total fraud, but they are also very certainly much more beatable than a Georgia team would be or one of the quintessential Alabama teams would be that would be the 1 seed here. You have to take advantage of this and lay some groundwork there. Because if that happens, now you're looking at it and being like, all right, well, this one team that they brought in, Cincy, already made it. The next team took the next step. They made it. They had an unbeaten regular season, and they go through and actually win a game here in the playoff and will be playing for the national championship. No matter what happens, really, at that point in the national championship game, I think that would go a very long way, especially when you're still sitting here with the Pac-12. They're now at a 6-year drought of having anybody in there. The ACC didn't get anybody in there once again this year because of the Clemson struggles. So this is the opportunity. This is the time for the Big 12 to really go seize that. Establish yourself as the 3rd best conference. Establish yourself as a conference that can produce a champion that was unranked in the preseason, by the way, and can go out and beat a major blue blood brand that just won the biggest game of the year that everybody watched in the regular season in Michigan, Ohio State, and get it done in that first round of the playoffs. And at the same time, it would help, too, if K-State can beat Alabama. We know what the SEC country refrain will be if that happens. It will just be Bama didn't care about the game. There were all these opt-outs, blah, 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 blah. But it would help, right? I still think there's a little bit of value in people watching and seeing, all right, well, this is Bama losing to a Big 12 team. Casual fans that may not be totally aware of the situation, like it can help a bit, all right? It definitely can. And what can't happen is for Bama – I don't want to put too much pressure on my Cats, but for Bama to have Will Anderson and Bryce Young opt out and go out and beat K-State by 3 touchdowns, like that would not be a good look. And that would be something that would get thrown back in your face. So maybe the situation there in the Sugar Bowl is more like you have more to lose than you do to gain. I think that probably is true. But it would still help the league. So I think those 2 games in particular will go a long way toward shaping some of this league's future reputation. There's a ton of momentum right now. And I know everybody in this chat can really feel it, but Yormark getting the TV deal done, some of the things he's doing to make this conference younger, hipper, more exciting. We're seeing those start to come to fruition. He's defending the league. He's having those who run the social media accounts defend the league. They got the script flipped on Paul Feinbaum to shut his mouth and turn things around and support the Big 12 a little bit more. Whether or not it's sincere, who cares? It's actually happening, and those are the words that he is speaking publicly. You've now had back-to-back years with tremendously thrilling Big 12 championship games that are going to do incredible TV numbers. It went down to the last possession 2 years in a row. Somebody that's going to be in your new league now has made the playoff. You've had this championship game for the last 2 years with 4 new teams, none of which are Texas and Oklahoma. There's so much momentum right now that it feels like it would be slam dunking it. Like the alley has been lobbed. It's time for the oop. And the oop would be TCU rolling through and beating Michigan. So I hope it happens very, very much so. Very, very much so. Browns and Beers. What's up, Browns and Beers? Browns and Beers says, congrats to the Cats. Glad for you getting to see it in person. Beat Bama for all of us. Glad to see TCU make it in and not even drop a spot after the loss. Feels good for the Big 12's future. Yes, Browns and Beers. Appreciate that. First of all, thank you for the kind words there. It was an incredible environment and experience in person. And yeah, it does feel really good for the Big 12's future. But if this, again, I will say this with the caveat, the committee threw you a bone this year with TCU. And this is even, if you wanted to go old takes expose me, you could, because I sat there for a long time and said, it's pretty clear TCU is just going to need to win out. They'll be in. If they don't, they won't be. And it's that simple. Well, it wasn't that simple. TCU did lose a game here at the end of the year, and they are still in. So you got a bone toss to you. Should this totally shape things for the future if TCU were to lose? Would it really necessarily affect next year's team that would be in the same scenario? I mean, maybe that is a little bit unfair, but we know that that's probably going to be the reality. If TCU goes out and loses by 21 to Michigan and is not competitive, you're going to lose some of that benefit of the doubt in the future. So for right now, yes, it feels very good for the Big 12's future. The Pac-12 right now, even as nice a year as they had with a lot of really good teams, just no great teams in that league. I was reading a little bit from Wilner, and the message he was talking about there was an article about the playoff expansion coming sooner, which is, I mean, the Big 12 use it largely the same way. Like, that's going to basically guarantee that your conference champion is in every single year. But for the Pac-12, it was like, well, we've desperately got to stop this 6-year streak of not having somebody in there. That will do it, if nothing else. Whereas with the Big 12, it's like, no, since he was there last year, TCU's there this year, let's roll, let's ride, let's party. So you are at least in a better position right now than the Pac-12, for instance. Robert, what's up, Robert? Robert says, Tim Brando tweet, RE Deion Sanders in Colorado. He's still breaking barriers. Watch them move to the Big 12 conference next. IMO. Okay, Tim Brando. Well, you guys know how I feel about Tim Brando around here. Not a ton of respect from this guy to Brando based on his arrogance and rapidly declining broadcasting skills. And it is that in tandem, all right? I would be graceful to somebody if they were graceful and humble as their career arc started to decline here at the end. Unfortunately, that is not good old Timmy. But calling a shot on Colorado moving to the Big 12, I don't feel like there's any inside info there. I mean, look, does Tim Brando work for a TV network? Yes, he does. He works for Fox. Do I think that somebody at Fox is telling Tim Brando like the scoop on like, oh, Colorado is for sure going to be the next team, for sure the Four Corner schools are going to come? No, I do not think that Fox would be sharing real legitimate info with Tim Brando about that. I mean, remember how difficult it was, and I'm not like shaming you for bringing this up. I appreciate you bringing that up. I'm just trying to address it here from the fact that it took Texas and Oklahoma reporters. Nobody figured out that they were leaving for the SEC until the story broke because of Texas A&M getting upset and leaking it to somebody. That's crazy. Nobody is giving out this information very easily. John Wilner did break USC UCLA, but not very long before it actually happened, and it had been in the works for a while before he did. Like, these things are really hard to figure out, and they're not going to just loosely give it to Brando. So he may be calling his shot, and he may be right. Maybe Deion Sanders does wind up being something that is of import to the Big 12 because he winds up in the conference at one point or another. But I'm not going to put a lot of serious thought into that tweet as of right now. And kind of it falls into the category of carnival barking a little bit to me from Tim Brando there. But interesting nonetheless. So I appreciate you bringing that up, Robert. Just lost my place here in the donations. Give me 1 second. We got Zach. What's up, Zach? Cincinnati fan Zach in the house. Appreciate you as always, Zach. Thank you for being here. Zach says, 2 questions. When is that dang 2023 Big 12 football schedule coming out? And can Cincy avoid playing both TCU and K-State in their first year in the league? A couple of things I can share on that. One, Brett Yormark did do a press conference before the game briefly in the press box, and I saw I'm going to have to go way back. I mean, I retweeted my guy Kellis, who was there, there was an update, is what I'm trying to tell you. There was an update. So let me see if I can find it by just searching at Kellis Robinette and Yormark. So Big 12 Commissioner Brett Yormark says the conference has no plans to play its championship game anywhere other than Arlington. Here we go. Speaking pregame, Big 12 Commissioner Brett Yormark told reporters to expect a new scheduling format for football to be finalized later this month. Okay, there's good news for you, Zach. That was even sooner than I was thinking. I was thinking maybe he said it was like early 2023. No, later this month. So Brett Yormark says he's got you covered by the end of the month. That's all you need to know, Zach. Yormark's got you. Biizzo's got you. Can they avoid playing both TCU and K-State first year in the league? Don't know about that, but here's the thing, Zach. I would tell you about that whole scenario. It's look at the last 2 years. Baylor and Oklahoma State last year, K-State, TCU this year. May well be two totally new teams next year. There are just going to be some ebbs and flows here. I think what you're seeing is what a lot of us expected about this conference. It's going to be teams rising up based on the year, based on who has what, a lot of parity, and no real dominant force here. So that might be the wrong, I guess I would say that might be the wrong question to be asking if you're worried about Cincinnati's prospects in life without Luke Fickell in their first year in the league. Or maybe it will have come back around, right? Maybe it will have come back around. And TCU and K-State will be back up. I know K-State's I won't call it a total rebuild year at all, especially with Will Howard returning, but they are going to have some pretty key losses, particularly on the defense, that they'll have to figure out next year. TCU's situation, offhand, I'm not entirely sure what all of that is going to look like for the Horned Frogs. As far as like actual scheduling info, someone did tell me they thought K-State was not going to get BYU in the first 2 years of the cycle somehow. So I think it may not be just like a total even. You're playing every single team, but also things could have changed. I would not take that to the bank. We'll see what happens when that actually comes out. Daniel, what's up, Daniel? Daniel says that Tulane loss isn't looking too bad now. Yeah, Tulane, shout out, conference champions in the AAC. Getting UCF on Saturday. I'll be honest, I was mildly surprised by that happening, and Tulane now is going to the Cotton Bowl to play USC. Bummed about the Chiefs today. Me too, but I'm not going to waste much time being bummed about it because I've got the Cats, man. I've got a Big 12 championship game to go rewatch and check out the TV broadcast for the first time there. So I am excited about that. Although one thing I was not super excited about was starting like the first 5 minutes of the broadcast a little while ago, and my guy Chris Fowler, who I love, but man, I've been listening to Pat 40 mispronounce Chris Kleiman forever and rolling right out of the gate as K-State's running onto the field. He says, like, K-State, led by head coach Chris Kleiman. I'm like, come on, guys. Like, Fowler does his homework. Respect him. He nailed RJ Garcia, who was a seldom used receiver who caught a touchdown pass later in the game, had that right away. But Kleiman, guys. It's Kleiman. Thank you. Thank you very much. Aglist, what's up, Aglist? Appreciate you as always, my friend. Thank you for being here. Thank you for the support. Says John Jayhawk, congrats to your Cats. Deuce for Heisman. Love that. Deuce had a great year. Not Heisman worthy, but a great year. Says KU can beat Arkansas. Crush Bama. Big 12 will crush the SEC 4-0. Go TCU. Rock Chalk Jayhawk Allen. All right, Allen, you got all your rooting interests in tip-top shape. I have no complaints there. Kansas can definitely beat Arkansas. Absolutely. Seems like Arkansas has gone how KJ Jefferson goes a lot of the year, and he's been hurt some, but they are far from invincible. Kansas definitely can win that game. Now, if I were Kansas, I would have been more geeked up for many reasons about playing Missouri, one of which would be I do think – now hear me out. I know that Mizzou just beat Arkansas at the end of the year. I still think I would rather see Missouri if I were Kansas. I would feel better about the coaching advantage there. Lance Leipold v. Eli Drinkwitz, who's much more recruiter than he is coach. Give a month to Lance Leipold to scheme something up. I feel like they're going to do pretty well as far as that goes. And then, hey, with Arkansas, I don't know what their roster is going to look like with opt-outs and guys going pro, but I would think there is actually a better chance of a lot of guys being in that situation than there would be for Mizzou. You mentioned 4-0 against the SEC, so the SEC matchups here are K-State, Bama, Tech, Ole Miss, Kansas, Arkansas. That's only 3, right? Or do we have? Am I missing? Maybe I'm missing one that's coming from. Oh, totally honest. Should have looked at this before I hopped on. Have not seen the bowl destinations for the other 4, the 4 incomings. So that must be what is being referenced there as well. That is my fault, guys. I don't mean to leave you guys out. Just driving back today, just got back, trying to get organized to get on here. I spaced on that. So my fault. No disrespect at all to BYU and the AAC teams coming in here. Let's see. Rob, what's up, Rob? Rob, ooh, okay. Rob says North Texas just fired Seth Luttrell. How big of a bullet did K-State dodge with him? On that note, thoughts on Brown getting another year at West Virginia? So Neil Brown. All right, a question about Neil Brown and a question about Seth Luttrell. They were the other two finalists for the K-State job when Chris Kleiman got the K-State job. No, I should not say it like that. Seth Luttrell was not a finalist. He was involved. He got an interview. Mike Norvell was another finalist along with Neil Brown. Seth Luttrell got an interview. I think now look, it caught fire. People really wanted Seth Luttrell because of the offense, and he popped with a really big year with Mason Fine at North Texas, right? As K-State was searching for a coach. So there was a lot. He was very popular, but I just heard he didn't interview very well. Was never seriously considered by K-State after the interview. So that's why I would say you could call it a bullet dodge, but I don't think he ever really got close to the job. It was just hey, this is a guy regional, played at Oklahoma, so he has some familiarity with the Big 12 and had a nice season. Let's check him out, give him an interview. And through that vetting process, he didn't make it very far. So I don't feel like it was like a crazy bullet that K-State dodged or anything with that. Thoughts on Neil Brown getting another year? I think the contract probably has a lot to do with it. And there is an element too. I talked about this a little bit last time, being rewarded for some patience with coaches. Now, if you're Auburn and you just have money around and you have crazy boosters, all right, whatever. You just go fire people and try and make it work. If you're not, a lot of times you may have to bite the bullet in a situation like this and try to figure it out a different way. So I don't think it's the end of the world. I threw out the example of like a Gary Pinkel, who at Mizzou took a while to really get going. People wanted him fired. They had a lot of patience, a lot of latitude, and eventually the guy was in some Big 12 championship games and playing some really good football. So I definitely don't think all hope is lost for West Virginia. I also think the coaching candidate pool right now, I would never not fire somebody purely because of what you feel like is out there, but there's not like a can't miss candidate out there necessarily right now for West Virginia either. So that's kind of those are my feelings on the situation there, Rob, but good questions. Ed and OP, what's up, Ed and OP? Is that Overland Park, Ed? Ed says, John, it has to be you if you had an N on your helmets. Oh, it used to be. I'm sorry. John, it used to be if you had an N on your helmet, you were good. Now, if you have an A on your helmet, keep the hammer in your hand and pound the stone. Yeah, a reference to Alabama, what's on the side of their helmet, freaking me out a little bit, spooking me with K-State playing Alabama. That is definitely true. The N, stands for knowledge, right? Like the old joke for the Nebraska helmets. But yeah, the N used to represent that. It did for Nebraska. Now the Huskers, not so much. Not so much. We'll see what happens with Matt Rule. But Ed, I appreciate the pep talk. I asked you guys to give me a pep talk on this Bama thing and playing Bama, and you're delivering. So thank you, Ed, for setting the tone on that. I've got 27 days to get my mind right before the 31st. I also have 27 days to figure out if I'm going to New Orleans. I've got to do that. It's the financial aspect of it, right? It's like, man, hotels, lodging, like flights, all that stuff surrounding New Year's on Bourbon Street in New Orleans. I'm like, that can't be cheap. So it's the cost, but it is kind of a once in a lifetime sort of thing to watch K-State play Bama and do it in New Orleans and be there on New Year's. Like I'm probably going to wind up going, but I'm trying to figure out how exactly I'm going to manage all this financially. So if anybody DM me on Twitter, JL Kurtz, if you have ideas for how to economically, reduce some of the burden by going to New Orleans for this thing, to the Sugar Bowl. So first time K-State will be playing in the Sugar Bowl. So I have not experienced that before. And I've not been to New Orleans. That's the other part. I was supposed to go to New Orleans for a bachelor party in March of 2020. So I bet you can guess that didn't happen. I didn't actually make it to New Orleans there. So I still have yet to experience the city, and I really do want to. So it would all be pretty perfect coalescence there to go see K-State in the Sugar Bowl playing Bama and do it to get a chance to see the city. G. David Davis. What's up, G. David Davis? G. David Davis says, congrats to your Wildcats. 2 Big 12 top 10 teams. Neither beating OU or UT is delicious. Now beat Bama. Go Frogs. Hey, there we go. G. David Davis, winds up being a good weekend for all of us. See, this is what I was preaching to you guys. Maybe someday everybody will learn from the wisdom of John Kurtz. The wisdom of John Kurtz says, let it be a really close game, another epic thriller, get lots of views and attention for the conference when all the other games suck, and then TCU still goes to the playoff. K-State gets to win. All great, all gravy. G. David Davis, go beat the hell out of Michigan, man. Even as much as the SEC love gets annoying, I think you guys have probably figured out if you follow me long enough on this channel, the Big Ten stuff drives me more insane because the SEC has earned it, the Big Ten has not. There's so much crap floating around in that conference that these teams just feast on and bloat themselves up to. They got big brands, big fan bases, and not a lot of chutzpah to the schedule in the Big Ten Conference. And that's how this always gets inflated at this time of year. So I would love nothing more than to see you guys go smash Michigan. Please do. Please do, G. David Davis. Please do. Boom to the Sooner. Thank you for another donation. Boom to the Sooner. Boom to the Sooner says, what is the Big 12 national perception next year? Cats Big 12 champs, TCU playoff team, Cincy playoff from a year ago, OU Texas still hanging around. I think you make a pretty compelling case there that I think once again people can look around and be like, man, this league's going to be pretty salty. This league is going to be pretty darn salty next year. Cincy playoff team. Now, maybe there's a little of the shine taken off Cincy because of the Luke Fickell thing. We'll see what winds up coming to fruition there with the hire and how things go next year. And I'm sure the portal, like there will be a lot. It's the other thing with the portal for any team that's going to really dictate how things actually go. I think it will be better. And certainly, again, if TCU wins a game, and then you're talking about building like stair-stepping up from Cincy getting in to TCU getting in and then TCU winning a game, we're talking about stair-stepping up as Oklahoma and Texas are on their way out. Texas, I think the interesting thing will be like, okay, if Bijan, if you're moving on from Bijan, how difficult is that going to be for the Texas offense? Just in general, like will Sark be able to evolve from just offensive tactician to total head coach and take them to the promised land? I have a lot of data that would suggest Texas is not going to figure that out and that Steve Sarkisian is not going to figure that out, but maybe so. I don't know. Your Sooners, I don't feel as strongly about, if I'm being totally honest here, boom to the Sooner, but maybe Brent Venables has something up his sleeve. The other thing that kind of gives me pause there, and it, to be frank, for a long time has given me a little bit of pause about K-State and climate. It's like the defensive-minded coach in today's day and age, I always do worry about somewhat, but I Kleiman now has found the answer, I think, with Colin Klein as offensive coordinator. K-State's going to have to pay up to keep him around. But I think that was a huge upgrade over what they had before, and that's made a big difference. So I'm just not convinced Jeff Levy is that guy at Oklahoma, but hey, maybe he is, and maybe they will put together a big turnaround next year. All right, just jumped over a handful of these here. We got a couple. All right, there was the boom to the Sooner. Okay. Rise and shout. Rise and shout. Happy for you, John. Beat Alabama for all of us. Got you, rise and shout. All right. I'm getting into it. No more fear. No fear at all. We want Bama. Here it comes. I got you. I will try my damnedest to make that happen for the league. Redbeard. What's up, Redbeard? Redbeard says, Big 12 game was the only competitive one this week. New look Big 12 has 12 shots to make an impression in bowls. Big 12 looking like the fun league. You are correct. It does look like a very fun league. If you just look at the championship games from the last 2 years, how could you not be like, man, this league is really fun. Huge fan bases that turn out in droves to support their team. Stakes, teams that can compete at the highest level and make it to the playoff and then just duke it out against each other in epic title games. It has been very good. That has all been very, very good. Robert says, had to step away. Did you talk about the TV Pac-12 update? No, not yet. Let me get to that, Robert. It is a minor update. It is just one note from the press conference for George Kliavkoff, but it does provide, I think it's a pretty hefty note because we've all been sitting around waiting for a while being like, when is this going to happen? The Big 12 jumped in front of the Pac-12, got in front of them in line, got their deal done. Now, when is it going to happen for the Pac-12? And I don't know how. You could look at this a couple different ways. The longer it takes, the better. The longer it takes, the worse it's going to be. Pac-12 will certainly try and spin it as, hey, we're still on the open market. I've already seen, their spin right now is like, we're the only ones on the market. In fact, the tweet says, George Kliavkoff says Pac-12 is the only conference with media rights in the open market for the next 8 years. And here's the important part. It says there will be no announcement about a deal until 2023. So we're talking about the timeline for the Pac-12 deal getting pushed back now to 2023. At least. So I'm sure it will happen at some point in 2023. That's probably a poor way of phrasing it, at least. but you're not going to hear anything in the next month. I think part of the reason this is important, and I bring it up, is like you would have thought, okay, so now you have some time. Regular season is done. You're just waiting for bowl season. Now maybe things start to move as far as TV deals. If there's going to be any Pac-12 expansion, that made it seem like it's still fairly far away. And there was one point in time where I thought some of the rumblings from Pac-12 countries seemed to be pushing in the direction of, hey, we might actually get this soon. Like we might actually get a resolution on this soon. That obviously has not happened. And it doesn't appear that we're very close there. So more to work out. Does it mean the Pac-12 is still pretty far apart from what they actually want from a dollars and cents terminology here, standpoint here? I don't know. I would certainly stand to think or stand to reason that that would be the case here a little bit, that they're still trying to negotiate and get every single penny that they can out of it because they need a PR win. I mean, think about it. Like if they had anything close to what they wanted, Pac-12 needs a PR win to get out there right now, especially now, even after a nice year on the field, they are shut out of the playoff once again because they got cannibalized in their conference championship game. Also could be a discussion for another day, whether or not that's actually legit or not, but USC didn't play well. They got blown up. Caleb Williams got hurt, bloodied, battered, bruised, all that, and they're not going to be going to the college football playoff. So they could use a win, but it doesn't sound like it's going to be coming anytime soon, according to that for Cleve Cobb and company. So maybe things do go dark and a little bit silent on that front for a while here. I'm always going to be fairly skeptical of that because it seems like the second that you think they are silent, a la Bob Bowlesby in July of 2021 at Big 12 Media Days, a week before the Texas and Oklahoma bombshell. When you think things are going quiet, that's usually when something does happen. But it is feeling a little bit more like that as of right now. Calico Willie says Prime at CU, obviously referencing Deion Sanders there, who's taking the job officially at Colorado. Any traction to four corners to the Big 12? I'm still not hearing anything different. As far as the four corners to the Big 12. Tim Brando tweet notwithstanding, I am not hearing anything different on the four corners as of right now. But I do think it's going to make me pay more attention to Colorado, which it'll do that for everybody across the country, certainly. And I think it's what their program needs. I mean, I saw Colorado has one winning season in the last 16 years. I mean, my God, like it was not that long ago that I can remember K-State dueling it out with them with some really good Colorado teams year in, year out in the Big 12. It is wild to me that they've fallen that far. They needed that shot of relevancy, and they needed to take a big swing because their program's in a deep hole. They went 1-11 this year. Like they need a lot, and he's going to provide a jolt, and I think give them a chance. And it would sure be nice. It would sure be nice if they could boost their profile and then come on into the Big 12. That would be great. If it wasn't going to be Cincinnati that was going to get Coach Prime, I'm all about it being Colorado and then coming in here to the Big 12. But no, I have not heard anything different there. Have not. Aglist says number 4 TCU beats Georgia. Hey, okay. So Aglist feels like if TCU were the 4 seed, that they would beat Georgia. Now Georgia has seemed at times like they are that they are less invincible than they have been in the past. But I would just caution you to say, like, it feels to me like Georgia has also been bored at times this year, and that's a part of this. And when they really want to turn it on, they can. But hey, did I see that LSU passed for like 500 yards? Am I making that up in the SEC championship game yesterday? Sorry, again, something I should probably know before I mutter it out there, but maybe that is a good sign for the Frogs that they could really get after Georgia. Let's see that game in the championship game, and I'm all here for it. Like if the Big 12 gets a win and gets to the championship game, let's just cut it loose and go see what happens and see if Duggan can actually produce and get it done for TCU. Would love to watch it happen. Love to watch it happen. Man, Noel, far too kind. Noel starting up the Sugar Bowl Fund. Thank you for that. Thank you. I seriously, you guys that do this, I try to just express the gratitude as much as I can here on the channel, but you truly do make it possible to do this, and I just sincerely appreciate it. So thank you very much. That's definitely going to be some motivation in the right direction. Definitely going to be some motivation in the right direction for the old Sugar Bowl Fund to try and go watch the Cats take on Bama. Maybe that should be my pitch to all you guys, right? I mean, like you want the league to get the pub of beating Bama, right? Well, I mean, I'm pretty loud. You could ask everybody that sat around me. I was pretty intense. I yell, I mean, say 2 out of every 3 downs, like I'm giving you the pretty straightforward yell when my team's on defense, when the squad's on D. So if you want the Superdome to ratchet up the volume a little bit more. No, I'm just kidding. No, Noel, incredibly appreciative. Thank you very much for that, and hopefully that'll get me to New Orleans. Maybe we can do some cool content while I'm out there. I did see same place we were doing our pregame pod on Friday before the Big 12 championship game. Saw Max Olson there in the building. Unfortunately, did not have a chance to run over and say hi to him before he had left, but I did. I saw him, guys. He was there. So point being, maybe we could rub elbows with some folks in New Orleans and get a cool interview for you while we're down there. Joe, what's up, Joe? Joe says, congrats to the Cats, John. Quite a game. Glad TCU made the Final Four. It looks like I am headed back to Phoenix. Yes, Joe, I know that plight of feeling like it's always Phoenix for a bowl game. K-State has been to Phoenix, it feels like 17 million times for bowl games between Fiesta, Buffalo Wild Wings. It went back when it was Insight.com. They played out there once. Lots of time in Arizona. I'm pretty done with that. I'm jealous that the Pac-12 has the Holiday Bowl now. I would love to have the Holiday Bowl back out in San Diego. We need a reshuffling of the deck here with the Big 12 bowl tie-ins. Sugar is cool, a place K-State has never been, so I'm stoked for that. But the rest of it, it just feels like we've kind of all done this. Like, we've seen Texas in the Alamo Bowl. They're going to go play in the Alamo Bowl again. Like, okay, cool. Well, we've seen it. We've seen Texas in the Alamo Bowl. Texas Tech, I'm pretty sure Tech has been in Patrick Mahomes played in the Texas Bowl. I can remember that for Texas Tech, that he played LSU in the Texas Bowl. I do. I will say I feel for Baylor getting Air Force in the Armed Forces Bowl, because that is K-State went through that in 2019 with Navy in the Liberty Bowl, where it's like, that you're playing a pretty damn solid team, and that you're playing a style that's difficult to prepare for, and it's just not like a fun experience. It's kind of like getting a root canal. It packs a punch. You also know it's not going to be fun, and it's a lose-lose situation. Nobody is going to pat you on the back for beating a service academy. So it'd be a tough one to be motivated, have guys not opt out, have guys stay in to go play it. It's just, Baylor fans, I feel for you on that. Oklahoma State fans, I know, like, guaranteed rate bowl is not what you would have wanted from the season. I guess at least with that one, I would say it's a decent brand that you're playing in Wisconsin, but not a peak Wisconsin sort of team either. So anyway, I think that's pretty much what I have for you guys. Went over a little bit today, which I'm totally cool with doing, because we have so much going on. If you are a K-State fan and you want the K-State content, we'll have another 3-Maw coming out tomorrow. There is a 3-Maw that's already out with some instant reaction from yesterday, if you want all the K-State specifics coming out of that Big 12 championship game. But I appreciate all you guys being here. I appreciate all of the well wishes for K-State winning. It truly was just an unbelievable experience to be there for that game, and to have my team win, the way that they did. I'll be honest with you, I was checked out in overtime. I am excited to go watch the entire final sequence, because TCU's drive in overtime, I just was pretty much like sitting down, dejected, defeated. I think I tweeted, I'm a broken man. I was a broken man at that point. And I was just kind of half-heartedly watching. I was just sitting there. I told my buddy next to me, I was like, we're going to have to score and go for 2. That's the only way we're winning this thing. And so I was like, just let me wait and let's see what our offensive possession is going to be. And then, alas, the goal line stand happened. So anyway, it was crazy. It was wild. A lot of fun. But you can get the K-State content if you search 3-Maw, wherever it is that you want your podcast. Hit me up on Twitter at JL Kurtz. Try to be pretty responsive in the DMs if you have something for me there. Should be back midweek with a show. This is the time of year where, like last year, I was thinking, hey, it may die down a little bit. And instead, it felt like it heated up with the coaching carousel and all sorts of news. So I'll have my finger on the trigger there if we need to get a video out before the midweek live session as well, depending on what happens. Spread the word about the channel to all your friends. Please tell them, whether it's word of mouth, social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. If there are fan groups or groups of fans of the Big 12, make sure that you're posting it in there. That's always an easy way to help get the word out some more. And look, appreciate you guys so much for being here. And enjoy your weekend. Enjoy as we move into It's not really the off season, but bowl season. No more college football regular season. I'm going to try and keep you guys stacked as I can with content here, even though college football regular season is done. Take care. Appreciate you guys all. John-Kurtz-4 on Venmo if you're watching this after the fact. Take care, and I will see you soon.